Welcome to this video on disparities in the UK. So disparities in the UK comes under paper 2 of your GCSE exam. It's under the section about the UK's evolving human landscape this time. So how people have affected the landscape in the UK. And we're going to be focusing today on disparities. So the word disparity means difference. So you're looking for any differences in terms of social or economic differences that exist within the UK. So the first slide, what do you know already about any differences or any disparities that exist in the UK? So on your worksheet and the slide in front of you, you can see a map of the UK, and I've added some images, some pictures to help trigger your memory about what these differences are. So there are a couple of differences that you might want to talk about. So the first key type of difference you might want to talk about is the difference between rural and urban areas in the UK. And the second difference that you might want to talk about is between the north and the south of the UK. So I've added some images in here to help you and to help trigger that memory. So if you pause your video now for me, please. Once you've paused the video, annotate your map and with any of these differences that you can remember that exist. Perfect. So you should have lots of your own knowledge, lots of your own kind of information on that map. What I want you to do now, I want you to have a little bit of a look at some of the clips that I've attached to this document for you. On these clips, there are a couple of different ones, and it's a bit harder to kind of work your way through these clips. So there are 2 GCSE pod clips. You don't need the information from the whole of these GCSE pods. Just the first minute or couple of minutes is really useful about your disparities of the UK. Then they go into explain kind of why these exist. We're not going to be focusing on why these exist today. We're just going to be focusing on what the differences are. So some of that information you won't need to add. There's also a video clip for you from a news report that you can watch through and add any information about your north-south divide from that. So you pause this clip, have a watch through those videos and see if you can add any annotations or information to your sheet for me, please. Try and do this in pink ink so I can see what information you've added and how you've developed your answer. Okay, perfect, thank you. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about some of the fix-it and the green kind of pen ink for this. Then I'll put up some of the information that you can add. So don't necessarily worry about trying to type everything that I'm saying now. I will add the key information in green on the next slide for you. So the main differences that exist, you can see here in the UK. I will start off by talking about our north-south divide. So the northern regions of the UK, how it's different for people and their lives compared to the people living in the south of the UK, in particular the southeast. So in the southeast of the UK, people tend to have a better quality of life. There is higher economic growth compared to the north. And this has been kind of represented by a picture of pennies up here in the north compared to kind of your notes down in the south. So there is a higher economy in the south. Also in the south of the UK, the economy is much higher because most people work in higher skilled, higher paid jobs, such as the tertiary or quaternary sector, providing a service for people, providing research, which requires a much higher skill set, therefore it is going to be higher paid. Transnational companies, as you can see down here, so companies that operate in more than one part of the world, tend to have their headquarters, their offices, down here in the south, in big cities like London. This requires much higher skill, therefore the people are going to have a much higher income. You've also got a higher amount of universities, in particular the top universities in the UK, such as Cambridge, Oxford, UCL, are all located in the southeast of the UK. This provides them with a much higher workforce. They're much higher skilled, therefore the companies and the businesses are going to be located down here. You've also got better connections, so you can see that here, train links, airports down in the south of the UK, meaning the economy is much greater. When we look at the north of the UK, There's a lot of kind of primary work, so farming, agriculture, more secondary employment, so factories, and so on. The north of the UK also has higher rates of unemployment. This is because of the closing down of the mines, the closing down of factories in the north of the UK, which has led to the economy being much lower up there and also having a much higher rate of unemployment. Also, in the north of the UK, there are less social opportunities for people. So there are less hospitals, the schools, universities and that don't tend to be as of higher quality. Therefore, education tends to be much lower and healthcare tends to be much lower. As a result, this means that GCSE grades are much lower in the north of the UK compared to the south, along with a lower life expectancy due to this poorer lifestyle and less access to healthcare. Okay, I'm just going to pop on the next slide now. So I've kind of summarised this in green pen for you. So your north, higher unemployment, lower life expectancies, lower skilled jobs, mainly in the public sector. So the public sector means jobs that are working kind of for the government. So they're paid through the government. So these tend to be much lower pay than our kind of private sector transnational company jobs. So pupils in the north of the UK are less likely to achieve straight A grades at A-level, therefore less likely to go to the top universities in the UK. There's also much lower house prices in the north of the UK and lower incomes. And then the opposite can be said for the south of the UK. So you can pause this clip, add any information on that you need to, that you think will help your memory for this section. Okay, so the final comparison is between our rural and urban areas in the UK. So this is a second disparity that exists. So you can see this on this diagram. Most of our rural areas tend to be in the north of the UK and the southwest of the UK. And then our urban areas tend to be in our major cities like London, Manchester, Birmingham, and so on. So the differences between our rural and urban areas, or our disparities between these two places, rural areas tend to have a lower population density. So there are less people living in an area. People are much more spread out. It tends to be mainly elderly, retired populations, which means that the economy in these areas are going to be much lower because there are less people working and more people claiming pensions and so on, which takes money out of the economy. The jobs in these areas are also much lower pay. This is because they tend to be in the primary sector. Primary sector jobs are the extracting the raw materials, so such as farming and so on. An example of a rural area is villages and standalone farms. When we compare this to our urban areas, we've got a high population density, so people are a lot more compact. You have high-rise buildings, houses, flats, people are living very close to each other. It tends to be a young working age population. So most of this population are out working, which means that the income is going to be much higher, growing the economy in these places. The jobs tend to be higher paid because there's more services, because more money is being pumped into the economy through these young working age population. This means that people work in tertiary and quaternary jobs. They tend to be from transnational companies that have moved into the area, which support this economic growth. An example of this is your towns and cities, such as London. And our example of our rural area that we have studied is Cornwall. So if you want to pause this, add any extra notes, any extra information about your rural and urban areas. Excellent. So we're now going to move on to our exam question, which links into our disparities of the UK. So the first question, well, the question that we're going to look at is explain two disparities that exist in the UK. So you can pause this if you'd like to, annotate that question, add any extra information in that you need to. Okay, so your annotation should look something like this. So explain. Say why or how something happens. So we've looked at a lot of explain questions over the last few weeks. Amount. So the amount of reasons you need to give, in this case, it is 2. So you're talking about two differences that exist in the UK. And we've looked at two main differences. The key word is disparity, so your difference in income or quality of life. And your focus here is the UK for our geographical location. In paper 2 of the exam, the whole paper is about UK geography. So you will always be needing to give examples from the UK. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a go answering this question now. If you pause this clip, you have 4 minutes to answer this question, and then we'll go for a model answer and we'll look at where the marks come from in this type of question. Okay, perfect. So welcome back. Here is your model answer to this question. Because it's an explain question, you need to talk about two disparities. So you get 1 mark for your point and a 2nd mark for your explanation. And this needs to be repeated twice. So the first point that's been made in this example is one disparity that exists is that urban areas have a greater economy than rural areas. So their point is there's a higher economy in your urban compared to your rural areas. The 2nd mark is for your explanation of this. So in rural areas, the jobs tend to be in the primary sector compared to the tertiary and quaternary sector in urban areas. So they've then gone to talk about which sector that is and why the economy is going to be greater. So have a look at your answer. If you've written about urban areas compared to rural areas, there's your 1st mark. Your 2nd mark is for talking about how these areas are different from each other with that developed explanation. There are other points that you can make here. So you could talk about your population density. You could talk about opportunities, quality of life, differences between these areas. If you're unsure as to whether you've got the mark, remember you can feel free to email me, send me a message, and I will have a look through and give you some feedback. So the 2nd piece of kind of information in this answer is talking about your 2nd disparity. So another disparity is that the north of the UK has a lower quality of life than the south. So there's your 1st point. So life expectancy and education outcomes are both greater in the south as there are more services. Okay, so have a look at that for me, please. Give yourself a mark. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the clip and found it useful for all your geography revision needs, please hit the like button below. If you want access to more content like this, more revision playlists, more exam technique and feedback, please subscribe to the channel. Regular content will be added and updated to help support you on your GCSE journey.